Welcome to Talking Theater, presented by Theater Masters. I'm Julia Hansen, your host, and I want to thank the Cause Bar for their help and for all our donors who have been so good to us this year. And today I have a very exciting team, I would say, a mother and a son, Haver and Melanie Muss. And Haver, what grade are you in?
I'm going into 6th grade.
And when did you know you wanted to do theater?
Well, we first started doing school plays when I was in kindergarten, and that
Was that here?
Yes, it was in Aspen. Well,
Okay.
yeah, and I started getting into theater, and then I heard Jane Gottlieb, one of the
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes.
yeah, and
Theater person.
I was
ballet.
7 when that happened, and I decided that I really wanted to follow theater, and just because it's so interesting to be in someone else's shoes and like create your own character.
So what did you do for Jane Gottlieb? What was the first thing you did with Soul, right?
No.
No, the other one.
It was JGP Productions.
Okay.
I did a show called The Spirit of Aspen Spectacular. Jane Gottlieb wrote it herself. Yeah.
And what was it about?
It was about a group of family that came to Aspen, and they went through all these problems that came across them, and I found it a very interesting play, although I wasn't.
Were you in it or were you helping?
I was in it. I was one of the ensemble characters.
And how important is an ensemble?
Ensembles are one of the very important parts in a theater show because they basically bring the whole thing together, and I didn't realize it then, but it's so important to be an ensemble person. Even if you aren't a main character, it's so important. I can't tell you how
So have
much.
you graduated to some lead roles?
Yes.
So what have been your lead roles? Then we'll find out from Mother when she thought you were interested in theater.
So my most recent lead role was in Xanadu. I was Danny McGuire. And then I was the boy in the Giving Tree, a book adapted into a stage production by Jennifer Michaud. And then I was in The Muppets Christmas Carol as Scrooge.
And when did you graduate from the chorus into lead roles?
How
long did it take?
It took like a year or two to like finally like find my base and like understand what I was all about with theater.
And would you like to explain that? That's very lofty words that you've just said. Tell us a little bit what that means.
Well, theater is a very safe place for a lot of people. It's where they can make mistakes in front of people. And that's one reason why I went to theater. And it just helped me get through it, but I still wasn't sure about how to enter theater exactly. So over the course of like 2 years, I did another Jane Gottlieb production, and I just kind of like started growing. And then after that production, then I went on to Sound of Music, and that's where I became Max.
Have you taken any private lessons?
Yeah, I've taken some private voice lessons.
Voice lessons?
Yeah.
Is that hard?
Yes, it's very hard because you're working on doing your ranges of voices and like working on how you can express yourself more throughout it. And that's very important because you usually do audition a singing part.
Now, before we turn to your mother, what grade are you going into again?
I'm going into 6th.
You're much more mature than that. Very special. When did you know, Melanie, that you thought he might be interested in theater?
I don't know. I think every parent thinks that their kid maybe likes things or acts theatrical, but he's an amazing memory, and from a really young age would hear a song or see a show and be able to, without even knowing what the words meant or really being able to pronounce them, be able to repeat entire scenes and entire songs. And when he was 3 or so, and we started taking him to shows, and his interest level, people couldn't believe I would take him to Broadway at that age, and he would sit through shows. So
what were some of the very first shows you saw together? And then one that you remember, and then one that you remember. That your mother's, tell us first.
I I mean, I remember The Lion King as being an early show, Mary Poppins. And then here in this community, we have so much theater. So really, when he was really little, we started going to anything that Theater Aspen offered, everything that Jane Gottlieb did. And from when he was little, he said he wanted to do that.
So what was the show you remember? Was it Broadway or off-Broadway?
I remember here in Aspen, I remember a show that the Teen Conservatory did that I hopefully look forward to doing next year, because I'm not old enough yet.
Which one?
It was called Urinetown.
Oh, you're in town, right. A very good friend of mine directed the first production, John Rando.
Oh, wow.
On the Broadway production.
It's amazing.
So why do you want to do that show? Is there something that speaks to you for Urinetown?
I don't know. It was very interesting at a young age. I didn't really understand a lot of it, but I heard it was the Teen Conservatory, and I'm like, wow, that's like professional theater for teens. I would love to do that when I'm a teenager, and they might not do that again. But that show really spoke to me because it was like a sad show, but then it was like very.
What show have you seen on Broadway that you can remember?
One of the first shows I remember was like Wicked, and that was really big for me. That is where I was like really, wow, people can do that. I really want to do that, and that's where it kind of began for me.
What is it about that? What do you want to do that you already do so much? What is it you want to do that you have yet to, you feel, learn to be able to get to Broadway, let's say?
It's just like Broadway is like stepping up like another like 20 steps, but 20 steps is really hard to get to. And you need to grow so much on acting and singing and dancing before you can really get there, or if it's just an acting show, it's very hard because it's sometimes a longer show, and it's...
What do you think you're best at? Acting, singing, dancing, or all three?
Probably acting, but I don't know, other people say other things.
So what do you like the best? The acting part?
I find acting very fun because in each role, you have to take on a new part. It's like you're like a secret agent or something. And
you don't mind submersing yourself into it?
No, I actually find that very interesting for me to learn another side about me. By growing into that character, I find connections, and then I go, oh, wow, I didn't even know that was about me. Like, I didn't even know that was in me. And
when you take on a character, how much work do you feel you do, and how much work do you think the director does to help you?
So with each scene, the director will sit down with you and talk to you about how you feel about that scene and how that works. And a director is a very important part of the show. They will do everything. They will help you. They will help everyone else. And yeah, the director does a lot of work, but then the actor has to do a lot of work. So I think it's kind of like the director maybe does like 55% and the actor does like 45%.
I don't know about that, because you have to do it every night.
I guess
They have
so.
a lot of work, but you have to keep it up. So what was the longest run you ever had with a show? How long did it last?
That was maybe 6 or 7 productions of it.
Performances?
Yeah,
That's the longest so far.
I think so, yeah.
How would you like to do it every night for a year or two on Broadway?
I would love to. That would be like my dream.
So,
Because every show I feel like crying at the end of it because it's just such an amazing experience and I hate leaving those people.
it's such a collaborative event and such a family that forms. How did you both hear of Theater Masters?
Well, our very good family friend's daughter was doing your shows, and Naomi's sister also went to Haver School, and then at some point, Nina Gabbianelli said, gave me Naomi's contact information and said that Haver should audition.
Perfect. Now, what do you think about auditioning?
That is a very jolting process because like you begin and you usually walk into a room and you go, oh, what do I do? and like just me or maybe other people, I get butterflies in my stomach and I like start to like kind of freeze up. But then right when you introduce yourself to that person, whether if you've known them before, then you start to loosen up and you're like, okay, I can do this. And then you just
And
try
you
as
do,
hard as
you
you
do
can.
it,
Yeah,
and you do it well. That's now. Tell for our audience that are watching what you've done with Theater Masters.
I played the role Tommy in English lesson, and it was a very interesting part because I was Finnish. But
Oh, you're finished. You say what? You were finished?
I was Finnish in the show.
Oh, finishing the show.
Yeah,
Oh.
no, I was Finnish in the show.
Yes, because you're foreign.
Yeah,
Not finishing the show. You were Finnish as in the country, right?
Yeah.
And it was written by someone from Finland.
yeah,
And that was the first thing you did with us,
yes, that was the first show that I ever did with you.
which we loved. And now, exciting for us has been this new project, where we're hoping, which was a sort of a test this summer to see if it would work. And I'd love to talk about it together because it was an idea of bringing whoever it was, a parent who considers themselves a parent, an adult, or a guardian or a mother or whatever, together with someone younger. We won't say child, we'll say someone younger, right? And would you just walk us through a little bit together what this was all about and what we were trying to do? Do you want your mother to start or do you want to start?
Sure, you can start.
So we first heard about this from your new artistic director, right?
Co-artistic director,
Co-artistic director, Melissa, that there was an opportunity for a young person to write a play. And your specialty of what you've brought here are 10-minute plays. So to learn about how to write a 10-minute play and to write one, and then I believe to have it possibly read at the end of the process. And then there was the idea that parents or the guardian or someone would be involved and be part of that process with them. I didn't know that parents were going to be writing their own 10-minute plays. I thought there was going to be more of a collaboration between the two. But that was a different, interesting part of the process as well. And there were classes that were, they used art. Melissa, Naomi, and Lee, and yourself, you used art to sort of as another creative medium to generate ideas and get people thinking, and really brought a lot of interesting information, I thought, and valuable information about how to get your thoughts down on paper.
Well, I think the beginning is a little daunting, isn't it, when you start to write a play? Talk about what you first put on the page and whether you stayed with it or not.
So what I found very helpful was with Melissa and Naomi, what they really kept telling you to do was just start with a vomit draft. Just like
That's right.
just
Naomi
put it out
calls
on
it the
page.
vomit draft.
Just put it out on the page and like see how you like it. At least you have 10 pages or however long your play is going to be. And then read through it and then go, oh, I don't really like that part. I don't really like that part. Maybe I should fix that. And then you go back and then you do like a whole nother draft. And
So let's talk about both of the plays. Your inspiration came from this vomit draft, but it had to come from someplace else.
yeah, we were in Miami visiting a very well family friend. Like I've known her since I was very, very little. And we got along a lot when I was younger, and we hadn't seen each other for a while, and then when I saw her, we were having a conversation, and it was very kind of like wavery. You didn't really know what was happening. It was very awkward.
A little awkward and stilted, right? And then?
And then as we got through the conversation, we started growing closer together after remembering all these amazing things, and then everything was back to normal, I guess.
So that was the inspiration. And you, Melanie, we'll talk a little bit about how you got to your play.
Mine was inspired by an actual event that happened in my car, but my play is still coming together. So, you know, I felt like something real life was inspiring, whereas other ideas that we saw happen around the table were not, maybe didn't come from exactly someone's personal
So
experience.
did you work together? Did you help your mother?
Um, we were on different schedules because I was doing things during the day, and then she was doing things during the night. During the day, she was writing during the day, and then like I went home, and then I started writing mine down. Yeah, she came over and looked at it, and she would help me a little bit, and then she asked me some questions, and I was like,
So
I helped her.
what were the questions Mother asked that you were able to help her
Kind of like
figure out?
does this make sense? Kind of how like because at first it was gonna be like a beginning in the car, but then she kind of like started to recount it as a story. Kind of, it was a very interesting process.
So did you have a dialogue then between each other?
Yeah.
A little bit.
A
A little
little
bit. I asked him if this thing that had happened was something that I should write about.
And then like
And did you ask your mother for any help?
yes, I did. I like asked her to read my final draft, and then she like well it wasn't my final draft, but it was like my semi-final draft, and she was like pointing at some things that like could be changed a little bit, just to, like make it a little bit more like a little bit more inspirational and real, and then I switched that a little bit.
So this class began by looking at the photography exhibit at the chapel, which was done by a local photographer. Was there anything in was there one picture that you remember that grabbed you or you felt strongly about?
Yeah.
Which one?
It was this one called Watering Hole, and it was 3 goats gathered.
My favorite, too.
Gathering around a little water bowl, and they were all looking down, and 2 were looking at each other with like kind of like guilty faces, and the other one was like, he was like ready to like go down, like keep drinking the water, and I found it a very inspirational picture.
And there was the one, weren't there 3 sheep as well looking over the fence?
Yeah.
Which was rather fun. What did you find in that?
So I definitely remember a cow. So the animals obviously resonated with all of us, but I loved the exercises that Melissa went through, so I was still thinking about those and the list making that she had us doing, so I wasn't as much walking around looking at the art because I was still thinking about all of those things that she had us
What was one of
writing.
your favorite lists? Because she did ask you to constantly make lists. Do you remember one of them? Do you
What annoys you about people? What things most annoy you? Because that was really easy to
do?
do. And
That
then-
comes quickly.
And then where your top 10 places you'd like to travel?
Were those too easy for you?
Yeah, those were easy. I really like the one where it's like write down shows that something that you would never write about, that you will never write about.
Right.
And like I had to write some down. That was very challenging because I was like, I want to leave it open, but then I realized there were some
Did
things I
these
never
help you,
write
these
down.
exercises?
Yes, they helped a lot.
Why do you think they helped?
Because at first I was going to do a little bit of a comedy, but then as she asked these questions and she had you make these lists, it like narrowed down my thoughts, and it like made me go, oh wow, maybe I should do one a little bit closer to home.
So we left that, and you wrote, and then the next place we met we're very grateful also to the Aspen Art Museum because they did a special tour for us and conversation. What do you remember about that?
It was a very interesting tour because there were parts where it was all triangles and circles.
We're talking about this one picture.
And that picture, it was very interesting because when you look at it, you go, oh, it's a green picture that has triangles. But then as you like zoom into it, you go, oh, I didn't notice that red. I didn't notice that gold. And then like you look at it for a whole, and it's very amazing how you start with nothing and then you go, like I haven't really seen that many art pieces that do that.
And I thought it was wonderful when she had you look at close and then the perspective, what it looked like from a distance. And did you walk through all the glass, the plexiglass exhibit?
It was very interesting because like it looked kind of like cross-dimensional. When you like look through one glass, you could see like through other glasses, and then the shapes on it, they looked like atoms. And it kind of made me go, ooh, what's this? And then like I would look one way and I'd try to put the atoms in a line. I did that like with 2, but I felt like I'd like accomplished something after I did that, and it was a very interactive art piece.
And what about you? How did you find was that helpful to you in writing a play, or was it just revealing in terms of looking at art?
I thought it was a great experience of looking at art, and I think it was probably helpful maybe in writing because it was a moment that we paused right from our busy day and just stood in the gallery and talked with each other and talked about what we saw, which is sort of what you needed to do sitting on the page writing and taking a moment. So that was a nice parallel, and I thought it was Gabriel Orozco, the Mexican artist. I think his work is unbelievable. That piece, we've gone back and visited it since.
Have you been back to the museum?
Absolutely.
And what was, all right, so that's wonderful. That's like going back and seeing a play and hearing something again. Was there anything particular that struck you the second time that you didn't feel the first time?
Yeah, there was this one piece of art that I kind of like walked past because like some of the other playwrights were looking at that art piece, but then I kind of came back to it later that day as we were looking at those art pieces, and I kind of looked at it and I was like, oh, that's very interesting, and then we left, and then I came back the next.
What was the piece? Can you describe it?
It looked kind of like outer space, and it was like black and purple, and it was all circles, and then I looked back at it and I found it very interesting because he left the compass marks like showing. It was like actually like imprinted.
You could tell where the center was.
Yeah, you could tell where the center was. And then he did like a lot of compass twists, and he always left that spike into the art.
So you did go back. Well, I congratulate you because I think that's what art is all about, is revisiting, just like one revisits a play and enjoys it. So at the end of this, just talk a minute about what it was like to have, you finished the plays and then your play was read. How did it feel to have your play read in front of an audience?
So Melissa tried to make a joke out of it at the beginning. Well, she did make it a joke, but she was saying, playwrights, be careful, this is going to be a vomitocious experience. She wasn't that far from the truth.
That's right.
It was so nerve-wracking. Like I'm pretty confident on the stage, but having something read to the public that you didn't really like, that it was kind of like personal to you, it was very insane. Like I was like, my heart was beating really fast at the end, like adrenaline was rushing. I was like, whoa, what just happened? And it was like a whirlwind. It was a very interesting experience.
Were there surprises that you found by having an audience hear it rather than what you were thinking it said?
Yeah, some like were like laughing a bit, and I didn't really expect it to be laughing, but some people were laughing. And I think one thing that brought together was the actors. For the people who chose the actors, you really need to choose the right ones, because if you had a different actor in the position, it wouldn't sound right. And I'm so thankful to the people who chose the actors, because that just brought a whole nother color to my show.
Another dimension.
Yeah.
It's hard. And then you should be in the room and get to change whatever you want, but we didn't have time for that. So would you like to do this experiment again?
Oh, I would love to if you, Naomi, and Lee, and Melissa allowed me in.
Well, we should ask Mother whether she'd do it again. Maybe your play, you'll get it ready
Right.
by then.
Yes, absolutely. But we're putting it on the calendar next year, and I'm going to have the week off, so we can do it.
Even better.
Yes.
Would you tell other people it was say something about it for other people, so if they want to join us next year?
Okay, I would absolutely recommend this. I'm going to tell my friends about it, my friends who I know who have kids who are interested in writing, and talk about it at the schools also, and also in the theater community, in the next several months.
I commend Melissa, who has joined Theater Master, because I think it was a wonderful idea, and I think it has resonance in so many ways. You get to experience writing, we got to experience another kind of art form, and in addition to that, it's a chance to communicate with each other on subjects you hadn't even thought about, right?
Thank you.
All right, so let me ask you a question. If you were to be in a play, what are some of the plays or plays you might like to be in?
I would love to be in the new show that's coming to London, but then might come to New York, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
I think you'd be perfect. You should come cast, try to go for a national audition.
Well, it's on Broadway, but
Well, but you might.
yeah,
Right?
maybe.
That would be, so that's one. What about another one? I think you said there might be another one that you,
Yeah, one that like maybe like here in Aspen, I'd love for like a group to do it. Oliver. I would love to be in that show. I saw it at the Denver School for Performing Arts, and I was very inspired by it. It was a very interesting show.
So you seem to be moving towards musicals instead of straight plays.
Well, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child isn't.
It's not going to be a musical.
No.
Okay, so you're going to do both straight theater and musical.
Hopefully.
Any classics that you've ever read that you can think of?
When I'm an adult, maybe The Phantom of the Opera. I'd love to be in that.
You have to wait a long time
long time
to be that one, right?
You know.
So how many hours a week do you spend on theater? And then I'm going to ask you one last question.
Well, do you mean in theater or the performing arts?
Well, we could say performing arts if you'd like to say that.
So every day I work on my instruments, piano and guitar.
Oh, you play two instruments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and harmonica a little bit, but and then I just love sitting down and just like coming up with funny expressions, interesting expressions, and like acting out scenes. And like I walk around the house singing show tunes.
You know, one of the other things to do is to keep a notebook with fun things that you see or interesting things so that you can draw from them in the future when you're writing a play. It would be good. Did you start with which instrument did you start with first?
I started with, well, I started with violin, and then I kind of decided it wasn't fit for me.
You're not going to believe this, but we're almost out of time. It's gone that fast. One last moment. Capsulate for me in 1 second. What's fun about theater?
Being able to step into someone else's shoes and join the community of so many other people who love this.
Well, I have to
experience.
say, Melanie, thank you so much.
Julia,
And
thank
Haver,
you so much.
you are a wonderful addition to this valley. And I look forward to doing many plays with you, many musical, and a lot. Thank you both for being on Talking Theater.
Thanks, Julia.
Thank you.